Hello, friends. I just got sick of the normal, like, hey, friend. And I keep saying friends, and I feel like we're gonna drop the S, and it's just gonna be like, hey, friend. But yes, see, like, that's more it. And it's like, either way, like, it was my thing with my one best friend, but now, like, it makes sense, you know? Some people will walk out and be like, hey, brother. I've tried to work on my brother in like a man voice, but yeah, it's still a work in progress. So, excuse me. I'm being called to speak on, share my story of family, the quote unquote generational curse, as some call it, or, just family crap that a lot of people don't speak on, We hear a lot, family over everything and this and that. And then on the other side, though, you do hear a lot like now where we're coming into the time, like, where we're done just sweeping family bullshit under the rug, and it's like not okay that, Uncle Frank be touching da 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 and shit. So, yeah, I guess I'm just being called to speak on, you know, it's been a huge thing for me. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, it's probably like one of the biggest things in my lifetime. Um, so yeah, I guess I'll just kind of dive right into it. And you know me, I got my whiteboard because I say generational curse, but I know that's like, it's such a broad term and it can sound like really witchy or something like that. When you hear the word like curse, a lot of people take that some sort of way. So what I got here is my little destination definition, I guess, of what the term generational curse is, right? Negative patterns, issues, unhealthy behaviors, etc., passed down through generations of family. Could be a wound, not like a wound. Those ones can affect you though. those can affect you. I guess you could say like a silencing wound, even a witch wound, always being ridiculed, persecuted for speaking up, sharing your beliefs because you're different, witch wound. Repeated traumas, poor or negative beliefs passed down until someone finally stops it. For me, in my case, like, I was the person, like, enough is enough. Like, enough is enough. You know what? I'll leave this right in front of me too because I have my little babies here. So for me personally, in my family, we're heavy on mental illness. They are heavy. They are heavy on mental illness, emotional neglect, emotional disconnect, mental manipulation, etc., etc. It's a lot of mental that has been passed down repeatedly. This book ended up coming into my possession at one time. If you know me already and you've heard me like speak about, my family and everything that I've been going through, even if you know me and my family, this book did a lot for me. It didn't start with you. Mark Wooleyan. Stop. I mean, I might be saying that wrong, but I don't know, that word means something to me. So I had noticed a pattern, and to give you a backstory for all of that mental everything, I had just explained. I'll give you maybe a few different things I can say, or examples, of those things that happen to me personally. So, pretty much, my dad passed away 3 years ago. And I remember one night, when he had first passed, like, just really breaking down and feeling like that's it. Like, oh man, my heart is literally like I can feel it palpitating even right now as I'm saying this. I can feel it. I could feel it palpitating. I knew when my dad passed, it was like I have nobody left now. And that was it. Like for so long, I felt like my dad was the only one that I had. My sisters always made fun of me. Like I've said this before, I think in one of my other videos, but it was big. Like it left an emotional scar. It was like fucking traumatic. Excuse my French. I'm gonna do my best not to sound like a dirty sailor tonight. Shit balls. Okay, yeah. So they always told me I was like the milkman's daughter. And like me and my dad always had a great connection. Like I always knew my dad loved me. No matter, what had happened, the times where we were going through, what he was going through, I always knew my dad loved me. Even when I look back at when you look back at all of the pictures, and I was his first kid, and like you can tell like I was like everything to my dad. And just like immediately, my mom has MS, ataxia, and tremors. When she had us, before she had me and my younger sister, she knew she had MS, but she was in remission. So she had me. I think she was like, okay. And then she had my younger sister, and she was not really okay. Like, she had an MS attack, and like, it hit this time. And so my mom actually said to me like last week when she was little, and I guess I remember that because I remember crying all the time, but I remember like she wouldn't even let me give her bottle, and it was like only my mom all the time. And then my mom just kind of like threw me to the side, and she was sick, but I don't know why I'm saying a but and trying to give an excuse. I guess it's hard. It's hard to deal with all of that. And then as like time just went on, it was more, my mom had to worry about, raising the baby and everything. But then, yeah, no, just as we got older, it was weird. Like everything, it just changed immediately. Everything was like, oh, about the baby and the baby, the baby, the baby. And then the baby got older, and it was still like, oh, the little one, the older one's okay. And then my sisters like always made fun of me that I was the milkman's baby because I didn't look like them. They looked like my mom. And I looked like my dad. Crazy, because come to find out, a few years ago, like I look like my mom's mom, and I have her body style. So like, making fun of me, but I actually look like that side of the family too. But yeah, like, hearing that for so long, like, and feeling like the oddball out and everything. Like, who wants that? So that's one example of just like, the mental shit. And then, yeah, I was always like never the one that was cared about or always pushed to the side. I remember there were a few times, that I had like tried to run away and just wait and see how long it would take somebody to come and find me. And the one time, like, I don't know how long I really sat out there, but I was out there for quite a few hours. Like, it was sunny, and then it got dark and the sun went down and no one came for me. And I took myself home. And this was very traumatic for me. No one came to find me when they gave a shit. So, I mean, I've worked on that, and I've done some beautiful meditations, and I've worked through all that trauma. So, those are just, a few of my quick little examples. I guess as I continue to talk, you'll start to hear more. Like I said, my mother has MS, but there was like something mental there for me, her sister was mentally ill as well, had mental illness, was diagnosed. She also had MS. My aunt was schizophrenic, and like, it's really a shame. Also in my family, there was a lot of alcoholism on my mom's side of the family. My dad's family was some addiction, so it's like there's a whole bunch of different issues there. I know both of my grandfathers served in World War II, and that had like lasting trauma, for both, one more than the other. So yeah, there's a lot of physical, illness in both of my families as well. So even growing up, as time got a little bit older, and I could see the mental, my older sister, she's my half sister. My mother had her before she met my father, so she was my half sister. She had issues with alcohol as well. She actually passed away. Oh, she's almost 3 years. So my dad was 3.5 years, and she'll be 3 years, if I can remember correctly. Her and my grandmother died on the same day, a year apart, and my dad in between them. That was a few years ago. That was in 2022. Well, she passed away in 2022. I guess my dad was 2022 as well. And then my grandmother in 2021 before that. That was a wild time. We've also dealt with like a lot of financial trauma. I know at one point, like both sides of the family were well off, and I don't know where that went astray. But it did. And what I can say about that became a mental issue, like that kind of programming as well, like even with my mother, she dispels money all the time. I say a lot right now, and it's like, because I know I'm recording and I'm gonna post it, and I keep trying to tell myself like, yo, just pretend like you're FaceTiming somebody, and be more relaxed. And sometimes it works, but then again, like, yeah, I'm actually really speaking out about this issue, right now. And, ooh, there went my light. All right, so, okay. So, watch any of my other videos, I lightly touched on some of these things. My mother and her negative thinking, and it's very dramatic, incredibly dramatic. So even when I was pregnant with my first son, I went and, I told my mom, and I was incredibly nervous to tell her. Mind you, I did not live with her, and it was worse than I thought. It was worse than I thought. She cried and wailed that I was destroying my life, and that now that was it. There's no going back. And it's like, well, I guess tell me how you really felt about when you had a child that young, My mother, I told you she had my older sister separately, like not my dad. I have a ritual. I have a ritual like behind here on my dresser, and the fire is like going. I wonder if I should check that. I think I'm gonna check that. Okay, so that was pretty wild. That definitely broke the dish I was using. That sucks because I really loved that. But I did a few rituals in it, so I guess it's kind of done, Like, yeah, now we held a bunch of energy for you. Like, let us go. So, yeah, example of going back to my mother, and just, I hope already I, kind of touched on how that already is not, a safe environment, a loving environment, a welcoming, nurturing, unconditional love environment. Let me go a little bit more because I didn't do enough. I didn't do enough. So, like I was saying, my sisters, always said I was the milkman's baby. So they're all taller, skinnier. I'm shorter, wider. Boom. I got made fun of my whole life. And, like, yeah, at one point, like, I definitely, if you know me now, I already am back and forth with my weight all the time. But at one point when I was younger, you could tell, obviously, like, I emotionally ate. And, like, I got made fun of for that. And my mom would never say things in a nice way. It was never a healthy way, My mom would always be like, why are you still fat? Just like that. Living with her for a while. Like I told you, she had issues with alcohol. So that was no bueno. She wouldn't let me like wear certain clothes. She's like, no, that's not gonna look good on you. Those colors are gonna make you look fatter, and shit like that. I remember there was this one outfit I wanted so bad. Like, yeah, now that I think about it and look back on it, like, it was ugly. And the shoes were ugly, but I thought it was so awesome. And I thought I was gonna look so good. And, like, I begged her for that outfit. And she eventually bought it for me and the shoes, and then I went home and tried it on, and like I felt so terrible. So I, yeah, all of that. And then like ever say anything and it's just like somebody else in the family will be like, oh well, they're not all there, and they're sick. There was a ton of, bullshit and just, the crap like that, the mental BS just blamed on their sick. And that's continued for so long, even, like I said, uh, my older sister passed away not that long ago, and it was still until the end, like, oh, she's sick. And I'm like, what the hell is sick, because like I don't want to say this and this be wrong, because I'm not judging. It's, I guess what I'm gonna say is it could sound, I mean, like I said, how it sits with you, it sits with you. Okay? Because there's multiple things I've fallen into myself. Okay? um, but I feel like to say like you're sick implies the option to get better, especially you're not saying nobody's telling me you're terminally ill, and there's no cure for what's happening to you. So just to slap the label and say that person's sick and allow certain behaviors to carry on because they're sick. No, when we're sick, I get a cold, you get a cold, you get a flu. I can't even say I don't get sick like that. Knock on airwood. But that implies like, you could get better. There's an option. There's an option for all mental illness. You have an option. What I have witnessed though, what I have witnessed in my personal experience, my life, my family, is mental illness, but there's no one ever really taking the proper steps to treat said mental illness. It's like we're throwing just a label and a band-aid on somebody's mental illness. And upon that book as well, that drove me into like, asking more questions, researching more about my family, and finding out just patterns going back time after time, multiple generations, and even stemming like, oh, well, if it wasn't my grandma, it was like my grandmother's sister. And I guess let me tell you, one of the things was found out apparently when all the kids are sick or troublesome issues, like everybody sent them to this one aunt or something, and she like took care of all the kids and stuff. And I guess at one point, my mom's sister, my aunt, the one I was saying, she had MS too, and she had schizophrenia. She went over there, was sent back like, yeah, nah. And, like the addiction. I guess I didn't realize when I was younger, with my grandfather, that alcoholism. My grandmother died when I was younger, so I don't know. But yeah, he used to drink all the time. My sister drank all the time, and then that was kind of like a sick label too. And that not kind of, that was as well, my mom would say like, oh, she's sick. I think it really started with, my like below an addiction. I can see like the mental illness there too, how I told you my mother has MS. She's got ataxia and tremors. I didn't mention to you a mental illness though, did I? No. So while the MS, multiple sclerosis, is neurological, it's not it's not like mental, so it's not a mental illness. Apparently my mother's fudge, I don't remember what they're called, but neurologist. Duh. My mom's neurologist had said, to me at one time, like, yeah, no, I told your mom she needs to be treated for like mental illness. She needs like psychological help, but she never went and got it. And oh, even just the mentality that the females, in the family had, is like this very toxic, mentality. Darn it with the word again. Even not just my mom's sisters as well. It was always, to sum it up for you, for lack of better words, but sometimes it was words just straight like this. Like, yeah, you fucked everything up again, just like that. Like, you fucked everything up, or of course that happened to you. Of course this is what happened because you fucked everything up. So that became a big, huge everything. Like, yeah, everything bad happened because you fucked something up, And it's always what it was. And then I was never doing good enough. And I was always put into, a role of caring for everybody. My mom got sick. I told you she got sick when she had my sister, but she was still like able to walk. And then a few years later, she had an MS attack and she wasn't able to walk anymore. And I got really scared. So it's like, even though I told you everything that was said to me and the kind of mentality that I lived through that hurt, it did mess with me. There were certain times, like I told you, the time that I ran away to see if anybody would come and look for me. That was the time where it like really built up, and I was trying to find a way to let it out, and an outlet, I guess. That's when it would get really bad and I couldn't take it anymore and I had to go. My thing was, always has been, now it's a little bit better because you know what, honestly, I'm not in situations that really make me feel the need where I have to walk away. A lot of my things where like I always just need a few minutes, like things are getting too much, I need to walk away, I need a few minutes to breathe, that was always my thing. Now I don't really experience those situations, or I guess if I do, maybe I just handle it differently. But I still always had that this is family and I have to do everything I can. It pisses me off because, we have that band-aid of sick on certain members of the family, but then we have other members of the family that are legitimately sick. And I love them. So even though they make me feel like garbage, and when it comes down to it, call a spade, that's not real love, or they do love me. They're just lost in their own sauce, But that's not that's not safe love. So that ultimately brings me to, what we're going to end up talking about too, is when you draw the line. And like I said, all that hurt, but also at the same time, I'm here, I'm not sick. And I'm going to help, right? I'm going to do everything I can. So I really thought, like, my dream my whole life was to be a chef and to open a restaurant, this restaurant, that restaurant, this is what I'm going to do. I'm never a chef. I don't want that ish. I don't want to be on my feet, man. I don't even want to work. I don't want to work. I never want to work. I want to live my life doing what I want to do all the time. I wish I could just be out. I wish I could. We're not going into all right, we're not going into all that skirt day and reroute. But yeah, no, I realized, like, wait, I'm not a chef. I only started cooking because, like I said, my mom got sick. My dad was working. Little sister, she was hungry. I was hungry. Older sister was drunk. She never came back. So I went in the kitchen and started playing around. Little sister ate. I ate. We ate, So then it just became a thing. And then, clean. I always felt bad for my mom. I always wanted to help her in any way I could. I always got scared that she was going to die. I mean, we went through some ish too. My mom sucked at driving, apparently, like before she even got sick too. And we had gotten into like a really bad car accident when I was younger. And I'll never forget that either. She was I guess she was pretty messed up. She was definitely in the hospital overnight. And I remember she had like one of those neck braces on for a few weeks. But I was always like in that, yeah, I guess even with that, maybe that helped start it. And then, when I seen her get sick with the MS, it was always just immediately like, oh, I gotta take care. I always felt like I had to take care of everybody around me. There were other people that stepped in, There were other people that stepped in. There's this one woman. She stepped in. And she helped raise us as well. But then over the years, I've tried to go to her for help as well, and she's actually like affirmed, all the patterns that were in the family, and really tried to tell me like, yeah, this is just what it is. And then tried to tell me when I was trying to explain to her, like, everything that was happening and shit. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that, and do what's best for, like the kids. And she's like, well, you think that's bad having to deal with just those two people? Like, I had to deal with that person and then your sister Debbie and your Aunt Kathy, and then your other aunt who's a straight up bitch, just walking in and her bullshit. She was like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm talking to this one and it's under control. I'm like, what is under control, lady? Because I'm telling you, nothing's under control. And you're hitting me with this is nothing compared to that bullshit. But now that you said it to me, and I just brought up those stories, like my mom did that, and my sister did that, because now it's all starting to click, you know? It's all starting to click into place for me. And the math is starting to math. The dots are all connecting, and I'm like, bitch, what? And you too? You drinking the fucking Kool-Aid? The hoodoo juice? So, yeah, that's me now. That was, that last little excerpt, me explaining all that. Well, that was me about, I think I gave that shit up. Even talking, attempting to explain anything further, or even dabble in any of that mess. 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. But yeah, it's like I started to discover, things. I got that book a few years ago. And then, speaking to certain people in the family, like when I told you the three in that 1 year, when they had passed away, and, meeting other people in the family and hearing stories and everything. And it all just, like I said, clicking together like pieces, and lights, and me just shaking my head like, you shitting me. I feel like, am I in like a Twilight Zone or something? Is this real? Is this real? This is me. I guess this is me noticing the Matrix, is what it felt like with the patterns. And it was literally a repeat. So when I say generational curse, like for me, myself personally, I hope you've grasped some of what I mean, by when I say just like generational curse, because shit's literally a curse, I tried when I found that book, started piecing everything together, like I said, savior mentality still. Also, it was love keeping me around longer, trying. I'm always going to try. Bleeding heart. That's always been a thing for me too, and I've always misconstrued that. And then especially like, I want to make a video and tell you about my thing with religion and my spirituality and beliefs and stuff too, right? And at one point, remembering Jesus and saying the like 70 times 70 and forgiveness and stuff. Can I tell you how I took that literally with no boundaries too? With so many people in my life. When it was like, nah, I should have cut you off and boundaries should have went up. I really did not really grasp that and embody that until a few months ago as a whole. So that leads me to, I guess, where I'm just going to go now with this. I feel like I've said enough and summed that up, I found the book. Pieces started clicking. Savior mentality, I kept trying. Kept trying to make a change, force a change. Even though it was getting so bad. Like, my older sister, we weren't on the best of terms when she passed away. I won't even lie to you, I keep it a buck. The night before she passed away, She was blowing up my phone, and I thought it was just some bullshit again. And I definitely, oh, there's my phone. I was gonna say, you know what? Let me see what the last thing I text Chuck that night was. But it was something about like, because of the way I was spoken to. Like, you cannot call me, come into my phone talking to me all kinds of crazy and disrespectful, and then it just expect me to drop what I'm doing for you. And I said I was just gonna move on. But that's what the women in my family do. You know what I mean? Dana, you fucking piece of shit, you stupid bitch, you didn't answer the phone. I need you to come here. I need your help. This is why I can't stand you. Or other one, you know? I have to do everything. You do nothing. Da, 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 da. I do nothing. Like, I'm over here trying to live, raise my 2 kids. You don't work. You don't work. You don't have to worry about any of this and that. Your kid's not even like in school. You don't have to worry about the drop off, the pickup. I don't do enough. I live 35 minutes away. You live not even 35 blocks away from mom and dad, you know? But I'm a piece of shit. Choking on a freaking meatball. We're sitting at the table. This is such a traumatic event, okay? This was a traumatic event. Isabella's birthday? Yeah, it was Isabella's birthday. Joey had his friend over too. Oh, here goes Debbie. Freaking, she was like a drunken skunk. Starts choking on a meatball. At first we thought like, you know, she was joking. And then my other sister is like dying laughing her ass off. I'm like, oh shit, nah, this is serious. Like, I don't know how to do like Heimlich, nothing like that, you know. My sister's man is upstairs in the bathroom though, and like I run up there and I'm like pounding on the door. I'm like, yo, bro. Also, like, that was her man at the time. He was out there in the bathroom, like, bro, you gotta come down here. Debbie's dying. She's choking on a meatball. It gets bad, and then he's like trying to give her the Heimlich and shit. It's not working. My other sister looks at this kid, like, run home now. This shit got so wild. So whatever. I think just thinking about the time, like, oh, if he recites like this story, he will tell you like that might have been the worst moment of his life in the meatball. Like, apparently it looked like meat wine. Can't. But yeah, she chokes up this meatball. She turns around and looks at me, and God, what'd you say to me? Like, I fucking hate you. Like, I wish you were out of my life. I wish you were dead. Some shit like that. Like, oh, okay. I should have just left her laughing and just sat my ass at this table. Left Mark upstairs in the bathroom doing what he do. Made that poor man come out of the bathroom. You turn around after you just survived that. You turn around and you look at me and say that to me. So yeah, there we go. That's some of it. So I started over time. I couldn't take it anymore. We had been on and off for a while. I'd always be the one to go back and forth with her. Other one would too. Like, our mouths, the way we'll definitely speak up. I've had a problem speaking up for myself for a long time, especially to my younger sister. She's just cutthroat. The older sister, I don't know, it's weird. I guess I had separate relationships with both of them. The other one a few weeks ago texted me, I'm a piece of shit that, that killed my son, and I should never talk about like parenting or anything. I'm just watching it repeat, and I couldn't participate anymore. I don't talk to anybody. I still try and help my mom. You know that. I still try and help my mom. I tried for so long, and the one thing, like during meditation, that kept coming back to me was like, you can't lead a horse. Oh, you can lead a horse to water. I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink the water. And this whole time, it's like always, you gotta help your family. Everybody would always say to me, well, you gotta help this sister, you gotta help that sister, you gotta help your mother. You have to have your family's back. You don't turn your back on family, but they don't care about my back. I'm breaking my back to help them. The mental bullshit is just spewing out. My kids are watching all of this. But I'm sitting here raising my kids in a different light. My kids don't get any of that from me. Honestly, I don't even know what time it is right now. It's later. I thought my kids would be asleep right now. It's like Memorial Day weekend. So they're also off with extra school days. I gotta go in there. I know somebody's eating my ice cream. But they're like waiting for me to finish recording the video because they just like want me time. My son is on JJK again, and I don't actually watch anime myself, but like, I know all these animes. My kids heard and witnessed all those unhealthy patterns, all those behaviors. Like I told you, that was at Belle's birthday. The meatwad was Belle's birthday. Like my kids lived in this shit, The day I told you, like I hit Debbie, the day that I hit Debbie, I hit her because like she was saying some real crazy shit in front of my kids. And I cannot raise my kids telling them like, you have to draw those lines and those boundaries. I don't know why I'm whispering I'm doing that. I can't tell my kids, that you can't accept this treatment and then literally show them that I am. And that might have been a moment of, no, I'm not taking back what I did. It was well deserved. Somebody had to do it. So they always say, you know what I mean? You keep running your mouth. Somebody, you're going to do it to somebody. They're going to be like, yeah, nah, this is not okay. So for that day, it was me for my sister. And my kids were there. My kids seen that too. And I won't take that back for nothing. I'm not taking that back for nothing. Like, sorry, she up there healing. We'll get to that in a second too, on how like I had to, even with my ancestors, I had to realize like When I'm done, you gotta be done. So, before I really drew the line, like after, my older sister had passed away, I still kept going with the family, that was left, and putting myself in situations. And before like all of that, I kept saying, when I realized all these generational curses, and it was like, damn, you didn't stop that, and you didn't stop that, and now we're here. And I can see I don't have a mental illness like a lot of the other people did, you know. Um that I guess, that makes it something different here. It has to end. And I was born without it, so that this all stops. And I started saying, I want to say maybe it was a little bit before that, I have big plans. I've had big plans. A few years ago, I started saying, I'm setting it up because I'm coming back one day. No, before I even said the coming back one day, I'm sorry. I said, I'm setting it up because I am going to be the ancestor. I am going to be that ancestor that they're going to come to, and they're going to know everything that I did. I write everything down. I have a ton of video recordings for my descendants. You guys are going to be watching this too. Oh my God, all my beautiful bloodline. My beautiful, beautiful babies. A piece of me travels with every single one of you until I am one of you again. I am going to be that awesome ancestor for you for a while. That's what I've been saying for years. And now, for like the past few months or so, I started saying like, yo, I'm coming back too, because I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labors. Like, I'm setting my whole bloodline, everybody that comes after me, through me, we will be set. And we started something real special, guys. So alchemy runs strong through each and every one of us. And we live in full, to the best of our ability, we full embodiment of our higher selves. Yeah. I started saying that, before I even realized I was always big with the ancestors, and I didn't even realize it. I had told myself, like, yeah, it's not a real, like, altar or anything, this is just my space with their pictures or something for them, and I light a candle, and like, been doing that for so long, and somebody was like, yeah, no, this is like a whole altar, and you've been talking to like your ancestors for years, like you're an ancestor one, you work with your ancestors. And then when I realized, and I was like, I went even harder, and really started incorporating my ancestors into things specifically too, and I worked with my ancestors, I thought, like the way I did with my spirit guides. I knew my sister, I believe, I want to say everything I believe right now and keep making this even longer, but I believe when we pass on, if it was really, your life was really bad here, we got to go heal. You know, it's not like my sister could have just immediately came back here and started fulfilling being one of my ancestors that walks with me, you know. If she did, it would not be ideal, you know. Gotta go heal, sis. So, you know, I had a little prayer. Like when I say ritual, you know, when I say ritual, it's really like a ritual. It's my prayer. It's a little prayer. It's a prayer that I speak, words that I speak. I told you about the power of our words. And I light a candle, light an incense, maybe some sage, you know. I make it like a nice little thing, you know, and I speak. So I had a little ritual for my sister and like, I love you, but I don't want you, you know, to hop on this boat right now, and I want you to go and heal. And then with other family members, what I tried to do was draw better boundaries. And a lot of times that would just backfire on me, you know, and I'd be like, all right, keep going, or fall away for a bit, just a little bit, then come back again. But then it got to a point where just even being around certain people and the way the conversations would go, you know, and the negativity, the negative thinking, the negative patterns, the speaking it out all the time, you know, for like for forever. And I just can't dwell in that anymore. And like, it just didn't feel right. So then drawing more boundaries, but then seeing that the little boundaries I had put up, they were like those speed humps in a road, you know? It wasn't even a speed bump, it was a speed hump. One of those little ones that's just annoying enough to make you slow down just enough because you could bottom your car out on it, versus like a whole speed bump makes you like damn near stop first, you know? Yeah, so the boundaries were just being ran right over like little speed humps. I have stepped away fully. I have stepped away fully, except for my mom. And I'm learning with my mother to love from a distance. My sister and I do not speak. I don't speak to anybody else in the family. I had been so worried for so long about my family, and I hadn't realized how many years of my kids' lives went by. And we had just been sticking around in these unhealthy situations because of my programming. I'm not even gonna say that. Like, it was all, you know, timing and everything. But yeah, my programming, you know, had me used to it. That programming we get, that family, you can't abandon your family, but family is what we create it to be, not necessarily the one that we're born into. And that's where I had messed up. And how I was just telling you before, the ritual with my sister, and me saying that I was going to come back to be my own ancestor. Last week I did this really, really intense activation. And one of the blocks it removes is like ancestral financial blocks, and ties, ancestral ties to finances that have you messed up today. Let's put it in a quick sum up for that one part. And that was really intense, really intense, but I felt it in my lower back. And I do know that one part in my lower back when I have pain there, that's like ancestral work, that something ancestral that's there, trapped, blocked, wanting attention, something. I literally done this not that long ago. So I knew what that was. And I came over to my ancestor altar and I'm talking. And I was mad, I'm like mad that I'm still in this position, mad that you guys chose me because you couldn't do all of this. And then I'm gonna put you up here on an altar and like make sure that there's like flowers up there for my dad because he loved plants. Make sure my grandma had her water in her fancy teacup because she loved her teacups. Like everybody that was like, but you guys really weren't that ancestor for me. And I've been saying I'm coming back to be that ancestor, And if I'm really ending it all, because that shit ends with me. Like, there is no more of my last name. Like, not from us. Like, this immediate, like, us or anything. And not that I even, like, know like this name, it kind of went with my grandfather. And then, like, he had my uncle and my dad. There were no boys produced. So for me, for quite some time, that's always been a thing for me. And I was always like, all right, well, if I get married, I'm never gonna drop my last name, like I'm proud. Like, my last name Indico, I love my last name. Like, it's a beautiful last name. I'm like Indica, but not, I don't put you to sleep. But yeah, there's not many of us from my bloodline. There's no more of us from my bloodline. I was upset that I didn't have a kid that like carried, the last name to carry it on. And then upon my thinking even further about it the other day, I was like, oh shit, like my grandparents on my mom's side, they didn't have boys either. And I don't recall really hearing like any of my cousins still like with my grandma's last name. Like, were me and my sister like really like the last? We're the youngest too, out of my mom, I told you my mom's younger sister had a mess, she didn't have kids. So it's like me and my sister were like the onlys on both sides. So all that ends with me. Benny and the Jets. So yeah, took the ancestor altar down. Like, I didn't get angry and pissed and like burn it or anything, in their photos. Like, say goodbye. We'll see you later. You're not getting this, you're not getting all that honor up there and everything. So I got pictures of me and my kids. and my money manifestation bowl and my little money tree over there, you know. And yeah, I love my mom from a distance. The other ones that do not respect boundaries and will literally come for me and what's best for me and my kids, if it's not going to serve my best interest or the best interest of my children, family or not, I no longer accept it. I no longer accept it. And that's how you bring about a difference. That's how you end the patterns, the family crap. That's how we make a change, you know? That's how we bring about a change for the next generation. I wanted to just share my story, I guess, on what generational curses was and what it meant to me. But can I tell you also at the same time, let me tell you how great it has been. There are parts that really do like suck. It is Memorial Day weekend. We don't have anything like planned. It's just me and the kids right now. But there's such peace. It's such a beautiful peace. And we're closer than ever. And how I was saying, you know, about these kids too, all these other kids out here around me that I'm seeing, and the things that certain people are going through, I guess you could say. Certain kids out here going through similar things I went through. And it's like, okay, come on, let's go. Hang out. Come in the house. I'm cooking dinner. I got enough to feed you if you listen to me. Yeah. You know, and it's literally me telling these kids, like, I know it's very hard, you know, and me telling them you can come here if your family is not giving you, you know, the mental support that you need. We got you in this house, you know, and that's what it is now. And it's been great and fabulous, you know. It really is another complete sense of freedom for me. And it felt like a chain that held me down, and it no longer does. I really, for the first time, did what was best for me and put my foot down. The way any of the women before me would have with any of their men. They wouldn't accept that. I won't accept that. If you have any questions, hit me up. Let me know. I hope some of this gives somebody out there some comfort. You know, if you've been going through a similar situation, or if you've been wondering, you know, like, am I going to be able to do this and step away to do what's best for me? Or is that really what's best because you're confused about what you should be doing? We can always talk and we can always chat. Chat. Let me know. And yeah, guys, if nobody's telling you tonight in your family, I love you and you're worth it, and I see you, and I want you, after you're done watching me, tell little you or any you that was stuck in that had a traumatic situation, like, tell them that you love them too, and that I love them also. And we're gonna be okay. Oh, wait, I said we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be phenomenal. I love you guys.